Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes,
Everybody
yes,
hearing me?
you're coming through. Yeah.
Okay, so are you seeing my screen?
Yes, you're good.
So Operation Global Sex Offenders Registry is a partnership between the Caribbean Committee Against Sex Crimes and Offender Watch. Offender Watch is the US software company that provides the software for most of about 60% of the United States and parts of Canada for sex offender databases. The problems solved by an integrated, well, regional first in the Caribbean, and then other countries can join on, would be one, tracking sex offenders crossing borders. And as Herb told me, there, even when he was in the military in the 80s, there was intelligence that there were, men going to Haiti to buy young children. So been an ongoing problem in the Caribbean. Tracking sex offenders crossing borders, and two, intercepting sex offenders soliciting children on the internet using the Safe Virtual Neighborhood app. So, well, it only works for registered sex offenders, and right now it operates on the app Snapchat. But it also works again to intercept text messages and phone calls. And if you have the app on a child's phone and the child's phone goes to the GPS coordinates of a sex offender's registered house, the parents will be notified. So this is the counter attack against the online presence of human traffickers and pedophiles, which, as we see in the previous presentation, is the new frontier of deterring human trafficking for law enforcement. The future of sex offender registries, well, as I said before, the Safe Virtual Neighborhood intercepts registered offenders who message children on Snapchat, and hopefully they will get it expanded to other social media websites in time. Using Wi-Fi triangulation and artificial intelligence, it'll be one day possible to use sex offender movements across borders to investigate human trafficking networks. So those of you who are not familiar, you can use Wi-Fi triangulation to target somebody's location up to 6 feet. So it is as accurate as GPS. You don't have to have your GPS turned on, and US law enforcement uses this all the time. So the hope, in addition to track intercepting sex offenders crossing borders and whatnot, once this data is handed over to Interpol and US law enforcement, the really prolific sex offenders will be coming into our region to buy children can be tracked. And once we track them, we can figure out where these human trafficking networks are moving, what locations to investigate and whatnot. The online abuse of children, the recruitment of human trafficking, all of that can be deterred once traffickers learn that there's a system that will be intercepting some of them at least. So just looking at two case studies of child sexual exploitation. There's a recent case, it's John Doe versus Twitter. John Doe is an unnamed teenager who was blackmailed into sharing sexual material. The abuser posed as a girl from his high school and then made him send nude photos and then tried to blackmail him. And he was actually blackmailed into molesting another child and had that recorded. And those videos were viewed 167,000 times on Twitter and retweeted 2,220 times. And that is not counting if it went into the dark web, into other websites. So you can see that causes huge trauma for the child, and there's a huge demand for, even on a public website where people can see what you're doing, Twitter can be used for child sexual abuse material, child pornography. The recent discovery just recently of 10 Haitian children in a hotel in Guyana shows that there is a regional demand for child sex trafficking. But we're not sure if as the previous presenter noted, it could have been forced labor, it could have been organ harvesting. We're not sure what the children are there for, but there's a serious problem, and the most vulnerable children are the ones who have to pay for it. Children in that issue were allegedly brought into Guyana by boat. The Caribbean has extremely high rates of sexual violence. So since this is a forum and people have links to United Nations and IDB, etc., please get these people to invest in some new studies, because we're still relying. very few regional studies of the data. So this from 2007 says 3 of the top 10 rape rates in the world occur in the Caribbean. This is the UN Office on Drugs and Crime and the World Bank. Nearly half of the sexually active adolescent women in a multi-country study in the Caribbean reported their first sexual intercourse was forced, compared with 1/3 of adolescent men. So those are horrifying statistics. This is from the World Health Organization from 2002. Some more data here showing that the forced sexual initiation from studies from 93 to 99, 47% of females and 51% of males. Sex offender policy in the Caribbean. So only the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago and Belize have sex offender registry laws on the books. St. Lucia and other countries, Antigua, etc., have discussed passing a registry, but it's not happened as yet. And this is an issue because Articles 45 and 46 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, what makes the CARICOM single market and economy, it facilitates the free movement of skilled workers and other classes across CARICOM. So we should have had some sort of data sharing in place for law enforcement data, because if I actually know of one rapist who, several rapists who do the island hopping because they are professionals. And if they have charges or ongoing cases, well, if they have ongoing cases, shouldn't be moving around. But if they have charges and a criminal record in one jurisdiction, it should have been, an issue in another one. But we do not have much data sharing in place. People say, yes, we'll do it through Interpol, but remember, the benefit of the software that Offender Watch has, it can be automated and integrated. So with one click, you can access the entire criminal record versus with Interpol, you have to do a phone call and you have to investigate the individual each time they come up as an issue. The rates of recidivism for sex offenders, based on a meta-analysis of 10 different studies, sex offender recidivism rates for sexual offenses were 14% at 5 years, 20% at 10 years, and 24% at 15 years. The 5-year sexual recidivism rate for sex offenders who already had a prior conviction was nearly twice that for first-time offenders, 37% compared to 19%. This is the source Harris, AJR, and Hansen, 2004. And based on a 25-year follow-up period, researchers found a sexual recidivism rate of 52% based on a sample of 115 child molesters in Massachusetts between 1960 and 1984. So it's very important when looking at the studies and the data that each study has different methodology and different population you're looking at. Yes, if you take all sex crimes as a big pool, a lot of people, so imagine you're dealing with a 19-year-old young boy who didn't know that the laws of consent for his 13-year-old girlfriend made it statutory rape. He may not really be a pedophile. He may just have made a mistake out of ignorance. And when he comes out, he's not a high risk for society. Versus an actual pedophile. I'm aware of several people before the courts who have believed to have molested 50 or more children over their lifetime in Trinidad and Tobago alone. So there are different risk levels to different categories of offenders. So it's people who are against sex offender registration often cite different studies, but who we are after are the very dangerous people who do not want to be reformed and who we have no choice but to register them and trap them. So the legal basis for everything I'm talking about is the International Megan's Law. It is intended to prevent child exploitation and other sexual crimes through advance notification of traveling sex offenders. The long title of the legislation says to protect children and others from sexual abuse and exploitation, including sex trafficking and sex tourism, by providing advance notice of intended travel by registered sex offenders outside the United States, and requesting foreign governments to notify the United States when unknown sex offenders entering the US. So this has already been passed by Barack Obama since 2016. And since 2016, police agencies throughout the region are getting email notifications of traveling sex offenders from the United States. And the law seeks under Section 7 reciprocal notifications. So the idea of a global registry is possible through this legislation once each nation state enters into a reciprocal agreement with the United States. And the legislation in Section 7 provides reciprocal notification. Section 10 provides technical assistance to be given by the Secretary of State and the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security to foreign authorities. So the US government has a mandate to provide technical assistance to participate in the notification program. The Angel Watch Center is well, it's a building and a database that houses all of this traveling sex offender information. So the vision, and I am informed that the Angel Watch Center already uses Offender Watch software. Once the Caribbean region is on the same software system, we can seamlessly track sex offenders crossing borders and track them on the internet. So if a pedophile is in New York trying to message a child in Jamaica or Haiti or Grenada or Trinidad, once all these countries are on the same system, that can be intercepted on social media. So, and as other countries come on board, signing the notifications, passing the relevant laws, we will be protecting children around the world. Just some more studies showing that sex offender registration is effective. The actual registration of sex offenders without the use of public notification laws decrease the rate of sex crime. This is, remember, there's the public register website, plus there's the police level system where police are able to check up on sex offenders in the community every time they change their address and whatnot. While the implementation of notification laws was shown to reduce the frequency of crime for potential first-time offenders, these laws were found to be operating adversely for convicted offenders. So the public notification has the interesting effect of deterring people who have not yet committed any crimes. The people on a public website tend to have more stress and more anxiety and can be shown to increase their rate of reoffending. In South Carolina, there was an 11% reduction in first-time sex crime arrests after the the public website was passed. And just one policy recommendation, that in the Caribbean, we do not do a good job of rehabilitating most of our criminals and sex offenders in particular. There's a policy out of Canada called Circles of Accountability and Support. You can check it out on their website. Offenders who participated in COSA had a 70% reduction in recidivism, in contrast to the matched comparison group. Essentially, to make a rough analogy, it's like Alcoholics Anonymous for sex offenders, where they have a community, they get support, they get counseling, and it doesn't require a lot of resources. It was invented by a pastor in Canada. So once you have that community structure, those who want to be rehabilitated can get this low-cost measure of rehabilitation and support. So in conclusion, a regional approach to the problem of sex crime is fundamental. The International Megan's Law sets the new best practice, and the software provided by Offender Watch, that is their database system, and their Safe Virtual Neighborhood app, and developments in artificial intelligence will be able to protect children on the internet once enough data is gathered. So any questions from the panel? Lorna says, what efforts are being made? Herb, you're on mute. Herbert, okay. What efforts are being made to get the various islands to implement the registry and participate in the International Megan's Law? This is from Lorna Shelton. Well, Lorna, I have made presentations to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I've sent emails to the government of, well, the AG's office of Bahamas and Jamaica. And we've had regional activism for this issue for about 5 years. CARICOM Impacts and the CARICOM Secretariat have been offered this information already. So they are aware of it. It's just the state of bureaucracy and the political will to pass the amendment. I already have a legal opinion offered to the AG of Trinidad on what amendments need to be made to implement it. Any other questions?
I have a question. How did your office work with the president of Haiti we have right now concerning human trafficking?
Oh, we haven't been in contact with the Haitian government due to, well, I am not directly funded at the moment. My organization really operates as like, it was founded in 2015 as a network of 35 NGOs across the Caribbean. And of course, over time, due to lack of funding and other priorities, these NGOs whittle down. So when I do have resources, I focus on the countries that